Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Faroque Khan Saab. Welcome to Kashmir Care Foundation, our special session on the spotlight, where we put spotlight on deserving men and women who have contributed immensely for Kashmiris here, back home in Kashmir, and everywhere. In North America, we wanted to start it with you, Dr. Faroque Khan. So welcome to Kashmir Care Foundation.
Jazakallah, I'm delighted and honored to be recognized in this very unique way. And inshallah, it will be a very interesting and informative conversation.
Thank you, sir. So it's a joy again and a privilege to be speaking with you. Dr. Saab, you were the graduate of GMC batch number 1. That's an honor and a privilege, a pathfinder you were. And you rubbed shoulders alongside your co-workers, your mentors. Ali Jan Saab ka naam aata hai, Aladban Saab ka naam aata hai, and many others. I think the audience back home in Kashmir and in here, North America too, will want to hear what was it being the GMC batch number 1. And to those of you who may not know, Faroque Saab was born in Udhampur, where his dad was posted as an engineer, but in Bazil Krozan, Kashmir. So Faroque Saab, describe us your life from Udhampur to GMC and post GMC.
Mitchell, I would like to take you back 100 years. Our educational journey started when my father, Altaf Ahmad Khan, received a scholarship at Harvard, which was very unusual and unique at that time. So he traveled for weeks and weeks and finally landed in Boston and was there from 1927 to 1930. Wow. And he returned with a master's in engineering and then did many constructive things in Kashmir in the engineering field. So the point is that in our home, we had Harvard logos, we had Harvard pictures. Education was a buzzword. All my older siblings got educated, forestry, automobiles, movies, architecture. And so it was natural as the last kid in the family that I would follow an educational path. So I got my earlier education in Presentation Convent College. At that time, it was co-ed. And then I transferred to Davie High School and then moved to SP College, where I did my intermediate FSC. And then a new medical school emerged in Kashmir that year. I was very unhappy because I was looking forward to going out of the state to see the rest of the world. But then I landed in my own medical school in Kashmir, along with my wife. And that was one of the best things that happened in my life because education was reasonable. Our annual tuition fee were 400 rupees, which my parents could afford. And I would go on a bicycle from Barzala to SMHS. And the school started. And we were a small batch on pure merit basis. It was a selection. And we were there, I think, about 60, 70 students. And out of those, about a third made it through all the way without any hurdles in the way. And we graduated in 1964. And Arfa was the valedictorian. I was up there somewhere, but not on the top. After that, we were looking and we soon got married. And we decided that America was the best choice. At that time, the Vietnam War was in full force. There were vacancies all over the United States because the local positions were being drafted. And there were opportunities everywhere. They sent us an air ticket, and we landed up in Barberton, Ohio, a small town in the south of Cleveland, and spent the first year there. After that, we returned to New York, and that's been a home ever since. I completed my medicine training, and then I completed my fellowship in lung diseases and joined Queens Hospital Center as a faculty member. A few years later, I was appointed the chair of the pulmonary division there. And in 1987, 10 years later, I applied for and was selected as a chairman of medicine at Nassau County Medical Center in New York. And I was there from 1997 to 1987 to 1999, 12 years. And during that time, I had the privilege and honor to be a program director and chairman for about 350 trainees who graduated from our program during that time. Just reflecting back on GMC, it was a great experience. When I joined GMC, our family and friends were not too sure where we would land. No school, so there was that bit of anxiety. What would happen? But the managers did a great job. They invited retired professors from rest of India. And we had very experienced teachers in anatomy, physiology, pathology, all the key subjects in the basic sciences. And of course, in the clinical side, we ended up with Dr. Alijan, Dr. Alakaband, and others, many others. And one faculty member I wanted to point out was Dr. Brij Mohan Ba. He had just graduated with surgical training. They had no position for him in the hospital, so they put him in the medical school. So he taught us anatomy. And I remember his graphs and his teachings. And then when we moved from the basic to the clinical, he was also appointed on the clinical side. So Brij Mohan Ban was with us for all 5 years as the demonstrated anatomy and later on as surgeon and then the chair of surgery. What do I get out of the GMC? I think it was a great clinical training, excellent clinical training, bedside training, bedside manners, ethics, and so on. On the lab side, we were a little bit weak. We didn't have laboratories, actually. The routine blood tests and so on was not a norm. So when we landed here, that was something for me to catch up very quickly on because I elected internal medicine. And so that's basically the trajectory of my professional career, the education. And it's been very gratifying. Yeah.
Dr. Sahab, आपने अरफा जी का नाम बोला, तो that she deserves a session on her own. For those of you who know Arfa ji, she's a leader in her own space and a remarkable person as she is as well. So we'll have a separate session on her. Dr. Sahab, continuing on this theme, you came here, you struggled perhaps for the first few months, weeks, years, establish yourself, your family. But then there was something very unique, Dr. Sahab, about you. And I want to put a spotlight on that. You helped large number of young men and women who were finishing their medicine in Kashmir and outside Kashmir. You were the pathfinder for them. आपने एक legacy बनाई, and if we have about 1,000 plus Kashmiri physicians in United States, I think आपका हाथ बहुत लोगों पे रहा है. Tell audience what it means to be sharing, providing, and guiding so that others can follow your footsteps.
Yes, Allah's blessings, basically. I was in the right place at the right time. We came early, and at that time, although there was discrimination against foreign trained physicians, both Arfa and myself, we never faced it personally. We both got promoted in our places and to high appointments. Chairman of medicine, there were 29 applicants. 28 were local graduates, and I was the only foreign graduate. This I learned later after I took over and I met with the board, the people who were screening me for the chairmanship. So I was a oddball. I was selected as a chairman of medicine in a major institution. And the reason was basically, I think the credentials, the work I had done at Queen's and the research programs I had established, they saw a difference. They saw someone who could bring a different flavor to the program there. Now then, once I joined the Nassau County Medical Center, which is a major teaching hospital, we started getting applications. And I saw that the selection process was very haphazard. Who knew who and so on and so forth. And some areas were completely excluded. So one of the first things I did was establish guidelines. These are the kids who will be invited for interviews, their score, their background, their resume, and so on and so forth. And pretty soon we started getting a flood of candidates from all over the world. During that time, the Berlin Wall fell and Russia kind of disintegrated, and we used to get thousands of applications from that part of the world. So one of the challenges, early challenges I faced was how do you manage people who are educated in different parts of the world? We had candidates from South America, from Africa, from India, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, different standards, different so on. And during that time, we had also a lot of complaints about the unequal treatment for physicians based on language, based on race, based on ethnicity and religion, perhaps. And so this was brought to my attention by our local governor of American College of Physicians. Her name was Eleanor Wallace. She came to my office one day and she says, look, Faroque, I'm hearing all these complaints from New York State doctors, and I don't know how to handle it. I don't have a budget, but you are in a good position. Go solve the problem. Give me some recommendations. And of course, she left with the word that I don't have any budget or any money for it. I saw this as an opportunity to create something. So I got together some program directors from the New York area. We sat and we ended up writing a little book. And this was the book, which is called International Medical Graduates in U.S. Hospitals, a guide for program directors and applicants. So this book was published by the American College of Physicians, and it sold like hotcakes. And the next year, I received an invitation to be a regent of the American College of Physicians, which was also first for a foreigner, which is the highest body for regulating and informing and developing guidelines for physicians in training in the United States, internal medicine, which was a great honor. So I became a regent of the American College of Physicians. And one thing led to another thing, and so it went on. Now, as far as the trainees, the ones we got, most of them were from not United States. They were foreign born, and they had no families here. So Arfa and I would every year, once or twice a year, bring them to our home. They would sit in the backyard, have a little barbecue, and we would chat informally. And I would get a feel for what's on their mind, and they would also enjoy the experience. So it was like a family unit, and they got nobody left the program. Let's put it that way. They all stayed till they completed the training and left. And now, when I see them, many of them are doing exceptional work, and I'm very proud of that. So it was basically having been an international medical graduate ourselves, being very lonely in the beginning with no role models, getting an opportunity to mold all these youngsters was a godsend. It was a divine blessing, and I benefited immensely from that.
Thank you, Dr. Saab, and thanks to Arfaji for being your equal at home and at work. I'm going to now take you to a conversation. I was at a fundraiser about 8 months ago. Bosus COVID kin osum ag doctor, deshin kin osum biak doctor. And I was meeting from them for the first time. When the conversation started, I told them, मैं कश्मीर से हूँ. After that comment, the conversation went to Faroque Khan. The family on my left was from Chennai, who did residency with you. And the family on my right was from Egypt, I think. And they did residency with you. And they told me, when you see Faroque Khan Saab, you should thank him, but more importantly, thank Arfaji for creating a home for us when we were not at home. So those were remarkable comments, and I wanted to share them with you and Arfaji today. फिर एक और चीज हुई बहुत impactful when you were in Saudi Arabia. And I'll come to that part of your life. But one thing that was very remarkable is the support systems and training you created for nursing schools. And all of that must have happened. Allah Ta'ala की मर्जी होती है. अगर आप में भी कुछ होगा ना ये तिचम करें काम, ये तिच काम ऐसी करें. Help understand those who we want to be the future Faroque Khans of the world, that there are no shortcuts in giving. You just keep on giving. Eventually things happen. Walk us through that phase.
Saudi was a great experience. 2005 June, a phone call, Gary. We'd like you to come and consult on King Fahd, who's not well. It turned out, when I later found out, one of the physicians of King Fahd there was one of my trainees. So he had recommended me as a consultant. I said, month of June, Saudi Arabia, 120-degree temperature. What am I going to do there? I'm sure he's got 100 doctors all around him. But this lady, Arfa, pushed me. She said, how many people get to treat a king? So I boarded a plane and landed in Riyadh on a hot summer day. And I was there with the king and his team for a whole week. During that time, I was introduced to a young man, Abdullah Al Amru. And he said, you look, I have been just established as a CEO of King Fahd Medical City, which is a 1,000-bed hospital with a medical school. We have all kinds of resources, but we don't have trained, skilled supervisors. So we want you to come and help us with your background. So I told him, look, I'm settled in America. How long can I stay here? He said, come for a month, try it out and see what we have to offer here. So Arfa and I went for a locum for a month there, and I ended up signing a contract with Abdullah. And the selling point was, he said, do you know about Hasada Hospital? I said, of course I know about Hasada Hospital. It's a major hospital in Israel, pretty much managed and run by the Jewish community from North America. He said, well, you have an opportunity to provide some input and develop a tertiary care center here. That was the selling point. That got me. And here I am. I have all these things which I have gathered and learned and skills and so on. If I don't share it, what will I tell the creator? So basically, that was the selling point. So the contract was for a year. I went there. I helped them establish the research center. And every year I would go to Abdullah, time to go home. He said, no, that's not an option. So I ended up staying for 6 years. Incidentally, one of the best CEOs I have worked with, Abdullah Al. During that time, I was asked to look at the deficiencies, where we could make improvements and so on. And the biggest challenge there was nursing. Where to train them, where to get them from, their training, so on and so forth. So I went to Abdullah. I said, I'm familiar with the nursing school in Kashmir, Bibi Halima Nursing College, which I had visited during one of my visits. And if you like, we can invite them and see if they can want to send their trainees here. And if you bring the trainees here, chances are they'll come back to work here. He was very bright. He spotted right on. He said, okay, bring them over. Bring the board of the Bibi Halima. So they came over. We spent 3 days. And then we signed an MOU that the hospital would provide the training, the food, and the lodging. And the students would take care of the rest of the expenses themselves. So that meant that I had to appeal to people to provide these youngsters. They didn't have the resources. So each student cost about $700-800. They came for about 3 months. They went hands-on, working with the nurses trained from Britain, from UK, from France, from United States, from Philippines. And when they left, you should see their comments. Life became different for them. And so that was very gratifying. That continued for 8-10 years till COVID hit, and cost about $70,000 in all. But it's a great investment. These kids' lives were turned around. And I'm very gratified when I get a note from one of them. Sophia Makbul is regularly in touch with me. She's in somewhere, I don't know which country, Canada. She's in Canada now, settled, doing very well, and so on. And so these were, and one of the thing that stands out, the day they landed, maybe the next day they would come to me and says, when can we do Umrah? I said, that's not what you came here for. This is not the place for, but we would arrange an Umrah trip for all of them, and they would go in a group. And one of them told me, Dr. Saab, my parents haven't done Umrah yet. I'm the youngest in the family who has performed Umrah. So there were so many blessings in that whole experience. Yeah. And it was one of the high points of my Middle East trip.
Dr. Saab, because of you and Arfaji, and I know Shireen will listen to this conversation, your brother in LA, the extended Khan family, and I'll come to that. I want to thank the entire clan, the Khan clan. Because of you, we're better people today. Because of you, I'm a better person today. And because of you, touched so many people who you would otherwise not have known, and they're better today. डॉक्टर साहब आपने रिसर्च की बात की labs were weak when you graduated from GMC, and that's true. Clinical research is an art in itself. I want you to describe. You wrote to a couple of hundred pharmaceutical companies. When you were at Queens, hey, I want to do clinical trials. I want to do clinical research. And Miles Pharmaceutical, which is then became Bayer, they reached out to you for ciprofloxacin clinical trial. That must have taken some. मैं भी करूँगा ये. You know, you're young. You say, why can't I run clinical trials? And you did a remarkable job because of that effort. Hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people use those life-saving drugs. Walk us through the Cipro history of yours.
And that's how one of my assignments in King Fahd was to start a research center. So I would go to the physicians and try to explain why it's important to keep your eyes and ears open for clinical research. They would always give me excuses. I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I have too many patients, so on and so forth. But some of them, caught on. My interest, what I used to start with them is be curious. Always ask questions. When I was in charge of the respiratory ICU at Queen's General Hospital, we used to manage very sick patients who had lung problems and were intubated on ventilators. And 10% of them, every 10th person, would get massive bleeding in the stomach, GI bleeding. So it dawned on me, why are we treating the lung? Why is the stomach reacting that way? And we started looking and digging and so on and developed a protocol for preventing that, which was basically the stomach is full of acid, neutralize it with an antacid. Very simple, very simple. We dropped the rate from 10% to 1%. So that was a clinical observation which led to patient improvement. And that was very easy to do, no protocol, just we were in charge of the unit and we did it and it showed good results. Then when I was at the same place, things got a little bit slow and dull. But we were doing great things. Everybody knew internally that the service was doing fantastic work. I said, let me share this with some people. We might get some outside support. That's where the letter was generated. Terry Ishman, my secretary, typed out a letter to all the pharmaceutical companies in the United States. Out of the 200, two people responded. One said, we'll get back to you later. The other one was Miles. When Dr. Arsiri showed up in my office, he said, we have approved you for 20 patients. 20 patients with lung disease, and here you have to give them, try this medication. I knew nothing about the medicine. I didn't know the composition or anything like that, but it was approved for clinical trials. And so we had to be very careful, observe it, maintain the charts, and so on. And we got lucky in getting very active young physicians who were basically working on the project. And they would recruit a lot of patients. So before a month passed, we had the 20 patients. Our city said, what's going on here? The other services are having so much trouble. To make a long story short, over a period of time, both at Nassau County as well as at originally Queens, we enrolled about 500 patients for this protocol, the largest in the country. And then the inspectors came from FDA. They checked out all the records and so on. And we recommended the proper dosage of the medication, intravenously, orally, based on our observations. And lo and behold, the drug was approved in the 80s. And here I suddenly became an expert on ciprofloxacin and was sent to all parts of the world to talk about this new medication, Australia, South Africa, Pakistan, India, everywhere. And so that was, it was luck, it was good timing, but if we had not initiated it, it wouldn't have happened. So my advice to the youngsters is there are opportunities out there. Look for them and go ahead and try. You will most likely not get it, but at least if you don't try, you'll never know. So that was the story of ciprofloxacin, and I've used it myself, and I'm sure many people in the world have used it by now. In fact, in the first Gulf War, every soldier who was sent to Middle East was given a packet of ciprofloxacin for preventing GI infections and lung infections and so on. So
To
that's the
those
cipro story.
to those who listen to Dr. Saab, the grant you don't write is the grant you don't get funded. The experiment you will not do is the experiment whose data you would not see. So be hungry, be bold, be systematic with processes. Success will come your way. Dr. Saab, अभी थोड़ी देर पहले आपने you mentioned about mastership of American College of Physicians. First Muslim, first Kashmiri from that part of the world. And then you, on behalf of ACP, went around the world, including India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, obviously from Chile to Bolivia to Argentina and Panama. In terms of context, message was the same, but you probably had to modulate the context. Why should they paying attention to ACP? For those who promote good public health, good clinical sciences around the world, that must have been an eye-opener. Walk us through that phase of your career.
My ACP story is a fascinating story. In the late 70s, when I thought I had got my boards, I was assistant professor in a medical school, I had met all the criteria, I applied for fellowship in the American College of Physicians. And I got a rejection letter. You don't qualify. Then came the time when Eleanor Wallace visited, and we put this book together, and I got to be elected as a regent of the college. So I would kid around with Walt McDonald, the CEO. I said, Walt, 20 years ago, you rejected me as a simple fellowship. Now you're giving me this title and that assignment and so on. So basically, one country you left out was Nigeria, which was the toughest assignment I've ever had. That was a real tough one. But basically, when you go there as a representative of the American College of Physicians, and you don't look like a regular American College of Physicians, you look different, you look like them. They start listening that, oh, this guy's done this guy's done, maybe I have room in that organization also. And I would share my story with them, how I moved from being rejected to being on the top of the pier. And so that was the message. And then basically it was one-on-one. Normally I would get invited to a meeting which the Chile chapter was having. And during that meeting, they would organize a meeting of the people who were not members, and I would address them and invite them to the college. And the best thing I ever did was basically I got permission from American College of Physicians to hold a conference in the Middle East, which was a no-no at that time. Basically, no one had done it. They would go to China, they would go to South America. They said, as long as you don't ask for money, you can do the conference. So we recruited the people I had trained from Middle East, and we rented a hotel there. 600 people showed up.
Wow.
And the ACP turned a huge profit on that. It was a fantastic conference with culture, with people, and so on. And then the leadership of ACP was there. A couple of regents had come, and Walter was there with his wife, Barbara. And they came back, and they never spoke the same language. It was a different story then. It was not Eurocentric. It was, let's move on to Asia, let's move on to Middle East, let's move on to Africa. So I gave them basically a way to get into places where they're not comfortable. They were not comfortable going to those places. And Nigeria was someday I'll tell you the whole story, but that was, so it was a challenge. You know, pack your bags, go to a different country, and then do the sales pitch and so on. But the rewards were there. Many people later on, thanked me, and basically that was very beneficial for me also professionally.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. I just wanted to share with listeners, Faroque Saab and I self-drafted to support a political campaign of a Kashmiri young, vibrant person, Reema Rasool. We did something we never know how to do, but we volunteer. जैसे फारूक साहब ने कहा, इन्होंने मिडिल ईस्ट में एसीपी कॉन्फ्रेंस की पहली बार. We did something. Um, the reason I bring that up, Farouk Saab, you know Rima more than I do. I just wanted to promote and support a young Kashmiri woman to run for political office. I'm sure she has a
Absolutely.
vibrant background and she had future. These are important things for listeners to see. You don't only support where you think there's product at the end. You support where you want to create product at the end. Help the listeners, Dr. Saab, why is it important to nurture and to support those who will become future leaders? And some may not, but if a handful become, job well done. Rima का example लेके हुए.
Is a very bubbly, exuberant young lady. And when we landed here, the question is, why did we get involved with so many activities? Why not just go to work, come back home, and live a leisurely life? Well, you land in a country where you're less than 2% of the population. In Barzala, I would cross the road and go to the mosque to pray. No hassles, nothing, no worries, no idea how the mosque was managed, how it was run, who paid for it, and so on. Here we'll arrive. The children need to be in an environment where they can learn some basics. And then we get the media attacking us all the time. And I look around, I says, who's going to talk on our behalf? Unless you do it, who's going to do it? So that was the underlying incentive. And talking of overseas events, during one of our conferences in Amman, I had invited Roger Bone as one of my guests. He was the dean of a medical school at that time, also a pulmonologist. And during the break in Amman, he said, Farouk, do you guys believe in Jesus? So that was like a, epiphany. I said, this is the dean of a medical school in America.
Yeah.
And that's his knowledge base about Islam. He's asking me if we believe in any other prophets. So we came back, and when we were involved with starting the mosque and engaging in it, one of the key items we put on the agenda was outreach programs. Unless you go out and explain yourself to the larger community, they will learn from the TV, which is not a realistic. So we ended up in a conversation with the Jewish community. We called it Amjid, American Muslims and Jews in Dialogue. Then, through the help of the late Father Tom Hartman, we started a television program in his Catholic television channel, which is called Our Muslim Neighbors. And these were local issues which had an impact on the larger community, that these are guys who are okay. It's okay to deal with the Muslims. They're not pariahs. And so it was a response to the necessities of the time. Every time a bomb, then yesterday was the 30th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. And we were petrified at that time. Is this one of Muslim names? It didn't turn out that way, thank God. But people were petrified. They were afraid that the next bombing, somebody will be imprisoned from the Muslim community. So what we did was respond to the needs of the time. And I got involved with Nargis Dutt Foundation on one side, Islamic Center of Long Island on the other side, American Muslims and Jews in Dialogue on the other side, Our Muslim Neighbor. So we had our hands full. And alhamdulillah, it's worked out well. We are respected in the community. And an example of that is my interaction with our congressman, Tom Swazi. Tom Swazi would tell me, I would go to his office, ask me about Pakistan, India, and Kashmir, and so on. He says, but Farouk, what I see on television about the Muslims is not very favorable. What do you guys do besides being doctors? So I took upon myself, and we put together this little booklet, 100 Notable Muslim Americans. We had a team develop it and publish it. And what was amazing was what I learned from it. And let me use one example, which anybody who's listening will relate to. In this book, there is, on page 16, we have profiled Nasser Ahmad. Who was Nasser Ahmad? In the early 70s, this youngster had come from South India and was doing some fancy research. And he invented discrete cosine transform, whatever that means. I don't know what it means. But he developed that, which led to algorithms which are used in all our internet appliances. So that what we are doing right now is partly thanks to this man, Nasir Ahmed. He invented the algorithms for transmission of to send images and videos over the internet. What a breakthrough! And I didn't know about it. I didn't know. Another person we profiled was Bursi Mutli, the young Turkish astrophysicist who came here and discovered a new galaxy, which is named after her. So it was a tough choice for us to pick just 100. There were so many eligible ones. And eventually, I shared this with Tom Swazi, and he basically understood that Muslims, like all other communities, have contributed in arts, in sports, in fields. Of course, the two well-known people are Muhammad Ali and Malik Shabazz, the two pioneers of Afro-American Muslim legacy in America. So I'm going on and on, but that's basically the story.
Thank you so much for putting spotlight on them. What Dr. Saab has said, if you do not talk about yourself or your members of your community, your neighbors, who else will? I'm reminded, Dr. Saab, of a conversation I saw on CNN. And the CNN commentator said, if your neighbor to the left is a Muslim, and a neighbor to your right you should wish to be a Muslim, suddenly the crime has gone down in your neighborhood. And suddenly the educational futures of your children have gone up in your household, in your neighborhood. That was the best compliment that he, a non-Muslim, non-Asian, provided about Muslims. But absolutely right on mark. अगर हम बात नहीं करेंगे अपनों की, कौन बात करेगा? The dean of your school didn't know whether you believe in Jesus. He didn't know Jesus का नाम कुरान शरीफ में ज़्यादा mention है than any other paygambars. Dr. Saab, you talked about initiating Islamic Medical Association of North America, the Long Island. You were the president of that, chairman of Interfaith Institute in Long Island, president of Nargis Dutt Memorial Foundation. But then you missed on one important thing, your own foundation that you and Arfaji run, which is doing, you silently touch so many people, and you and I from time to time figure out ways to help that student who's studying in this university without knowing your student hack on, because someone will attest ki jaan bachi chuparan jaan. Walk us through the Family Foundation now.
The Family Foundation came out in 1997. I was talking to a friend of mine and we used to get requests, please support this student, please support that student. They don't have the means. And Ghafoor suggested, why don't you establish a foundation? It will make it easier. I said, what is a foundation? How do I do it? So he guided me, and we 3-4 pages application, submitted it, and there it was, AFK Faroque Khan Foundation, established in 1997. So we basically, through that, were able to support programs in Kashmir. We helped them at the medical school establish the computer lab and the advances in technology. But more importantly, here, when students land here and they need, support, if they're eligible, if they're supported, if they have good references, we offer the helping hand, like our children. And we have, trained, we have helped so many over the years, past 25 years. And now just 2-3 years ago, we expanded a little bit. We developed a web. Up to that time, it was all word of mouth. Now we have a website. And now Shireen went to the meeting in Chicago, the KGNA meeting, and presented there what we are doing. So it's been it's a small thing, but helping people who really need it at the right time. So that's the foundation, and inshallah we'll be expanding it. We are in the process of finalizing our will and so on, and so it will be well endowed, and it will hopefully continue.
That's remarkable, Dr. Saab. You've always been kind with your ideas. You have always been very forthright with connecting people for the work we do at Kashmir Care Foundation. You connected us with the British diaspora. And that conversation is moving forward. I wanted to, Dr. Saab, towards the end of this conversation, have us visit the Khan family residence virtually. We want to see what does Eid, Father's Day, Mother's Day look like with 20, 30, 40, and numbers could grow from time to time. What are the conversations that take place? In this segment, if I can brand Meet the Khans of Kashmir and New York, take the audience virtually to that event.
Well, the family started in the late 60s with two, Marfa and myself. We were the first ones to come here. And then over the period with the turmoil going on in Kashmir in the 90s, a lot of our nephews and nieces decided to take an exit and they came here. And now we would have, get-togethers in our home usually, 10 people, 20 people, 30 people. But then it got to a size where you wouldn't basically get enough room in one house. So just last April 5th, the community rented a place, a big place in Glencoe, and we had about 70, 80 people there from all branches, from our family, from some trainees, their children. And one guy came to me, he said, I didn't know him. He says, I'm the son of Saidan. You trained Saidan. He's now in somewhere in the Midwest. And this kid is working in Manhattan. So we had this gathering there. Now, what happened there? The usual chit chat, a little bit of roof, and the dress code was Kashmiri outfit. So that was it. And then a big picture with everybody almost seated in one place. And it was a very nice get together to kind of introduce people to each other. I met some of my relatives I never met before. My cousin's daughter just graduated from one of the medical training programs in Manhattan. She came to me, greeted me, Salaam alaikum, uncle. I said, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. I'm Mariam, I'm such and such. So, so it was a great gathering now. We have grown out of the houses now. We are now in a stage where we have to go to a larger fair. And that's the story of the Muslims, basically,
Yes.
in America.
Yes.
Yes. The Islamic Center of Long Island, for the first Friday prayer, had three people, myself, the imam, and third person. So I said, well, what are we buying this building for? And what are we doing? Now, they have 500 kids in school for the weekend school, over 500. And it's on Eid day, 7,000 people show up who cannot be accommodated there. So we rent a park, a gymnasium in a park. And so there's been an explosion of the community growth, tremendous growth. Challenges remain, how to unify, how to get a common message across, and how to, wake up some people who feel that they're happy, they're content, don't bother me. It doesn't matter who's in Washington. It does matter. And now you see what's going on. And people hopefully will get the lesson and make a change in the next election. So it's been a phenomenal growth. And we are blessed to be in this country. And before I take off, I just wanted to read something for you from the Quranic verse, Surah Ibrahim. It's a parable. A goodly word is like a goodly tree, whose root is firmly fixed and its branches reach to heavens. It brings forth its fruit at all times by the leave of the Lord. And Dr. Altaf Lal Sahab, you have planted a tree, a good tree. It's known as Kashmir Care Foundation. And it's already bearing fruit and it's already doing things. And inshallah, with the very ambitious agenda you have set for the organization, it will have a huge impact on the larger community. And of course, I always use this quote from Margaret Mead, who's a famous anthropologist. For those who say, what will happen? What difference can I make? Leave me alone. Don't bother me. I'm at peace. I've heard that many, many times. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever does. Something to keep in mind. And
Thank you,
don't
sir.
underestimate what what your action may lead to. And Alhamdulillah, over the years, we have, written books and so on and so forth, and that's all related to the initiatives which we launched.
Dr. Saab, I had the distinct pleasure of meeting your brother, Rafiq Saab. बफलो में मिला था उनसे खुर्शीद ने एक छोटा सा ग्रुप ऑर्गेनाइज किया था and I told Khurshid Sab, Rafiq Sab, you brought a strategic mind. Them to them kanas mention Faroque Sab's boy. He's independently a very strategic mind because he was picking up threads which none of us were picking up at that time in that meeting. And your nephew Amjad, who's in Dubai for Microsoft, he was a panelist for us for the second session we did under the Kashmir Care Foundation on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Again, a very strategic, outspoken person. So thank you to Khan Genetics and the way Khans have organized themselves. Dr. Saab, it is my honor and a joy that I had you on this session today. Please keep thinking about us. Please keep commenting about us. And I wish you continued success in multiple endeavors you have. You obviously had a remarkable, stellar career, which continues today through givings of multiple charities. I ask you that you please keep on providing us your guidance and counsel. With that, thank you so much, Faroque Saab.
Jazakallah, I'm honored by this presentation and for recognition. And inshallah, we'll keep plugging away. Not sure how many days are left, but for whatever time there is, we'll keep doing some good work.